Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Collecting 101. My name is Mike, and in today's episode, we're going to be discussing fairy lamps. Now, what is a fairy lamp? As you can see in this picture here, it is a wide-based glass or pottery piece with an open-topped dome. Today, we're going to delve into the history of these pieces, as well as the popularity, and of course, the value. So let's start off today with history. Before electricity, candles and gas lights were the only form of lighting your home. Now, due to this, fires were inevitable and happened quite often. Now, in the 1840s, a new candle was developed that was smaller, fatter, and encased in paper. Set in water, these carried less risk of fire. Now, in 1885, Samuel Clarke, an English lighting designer, patented a design of a glass cup covered with an open dome as a way to sell his very own version of these newly styled candles. One of his first designs was the Crick light. It became widely popular due to its style, but also for its safety. No longer easily knocked over and protected from the breeze, it really could be used anywhere. Now, why are these called fairy lamps? Now, when Clarke patented his design, he had a fairy at the bottom of the glass, which in turn, why they called them fairy lamps. Now, these became so popular that Queen Victoria ordered over 1,500 for her own personal use. Looking to copy anything the Queen did, consumers flocked to stores to buy their very own fairy lamp. The popularity spread to America, and glass companies started manufacturing their very own fairy lamps as well. An exhibit at the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago featured the wooded island lit by fairy lamps. 3,000 of those fairy lamps were donated by Clarke. Now, fairy lamps continued to be used throughout the 1920s before falling out of favor. Now, one of the most popular glass companies in the world, the Fenton Glass Company, began producing their own line of fairy lamps in the 1950s, reviving their popularity due to Fenton's unique production of glass. Fenton introduced many new designs like the hand-painted version, hobnail, moon and stars, cranberry, amongst many other designs. Now fairy lamps have become a staple at all antique shops worldwide, but the premise remains the same. A cupped base to hold a squat candle with a domed lid. Now the history of fairy lamps is quite deep when it goes back just about 200 years. Samuel Clarke was very fierce about holding on to his patent amongst many other things as well, which we'll talk more in the popularity section. But the history of these fairy lamps is very unique, and it spreads worldwide, which is something very cool to reminisce on as well. So let's get into the popularity of fairy lamps. All right, so when we go into the popularity section of this video, our main focus is to give you as many examples of fairy lamps out there as possible. So when you guys are out there hunting, looking for steals and deals, that you guys have as many options out there as you possibly can, because there's so many out there. I can't possibly show you them all, but hopefully you get enough of them to get a good understanding of what kind of fairy lamps are out there. So we're going to talk about 3 different sizes and show you guys those as well. I mean, the typical fairy lamp size, then you have the pyramid size, and then, of course, you have the Wii size, all very collectible and very sought after on the market today. Now, Samuel Clarke collaborated with companies such as Thomas Webb, Stevens and Williams, Taylor and Tunnicliffe, Royal Worcester, and Dalton Burslin. Now, again, here's more examples of those as well. Now, when you talk about going back to that far for Samuel Clarke, those are obviously going to carry a little more value because those are going to get you back into the 1800s, early 1900s. Now, these were also made in many different art glass styles as well, like Burmese, Cameo, Peach Blow, Vera Moreau, crystal, satin glass, and even lithophane. And again, there's also many different styles of glass that was used, like Viking glass, Fenton glass. I mean, there's so many different styles as well that I'll show you guys throughout this whole video. Again, not able to touch on all of them just because of the fact there's so many out there. But again, giving you guys enough examples so you guys understand how many are out there. Now, though Samuel Clarke protected his patent very ferociously, some companies made similar styles of lamps as well, such as Pearpoint, Baccarat, Hobbs Brocanier, Central Glass, and Daum. Now, they all had clever designs that differentiated their design by very little bit just to make it so it was different, to avoid infringing on the patent that Samuel Clarke had. So again, these ones out here are not original Samuel Clarke's, but they look so familiar, and it's so tough to really dictate between these little different design flaws or design pieces. It makes these, the more research you do on these, even better. And the more research you guys have and the more information you guys have, the more knowledge. Again, it really helps out when you guys are starting to collect something like this. Now, the popularity of these still exists today. Now, at our shop alone, we sell fairy lamps all the time. Now, there's so many collectors that still come into this day, which tells me that the popularity of these things is not going anywhere. Every time we get them in, if you guys follow us on Facebook, Amber always posts weekly photos. Anytime we have fairy lamps come in, they're gone that fast. So fairy lamps are still popular to this day, and as many designs as well as all these cool little features that they offer, it makes them so sought after. And as you guys have seen in many of these pictures, something that really a lot of people can design as well as display. Sorry, not design, display a lot easier out there as well, and they look really cool with all the different colors and designs. Now, from simple designs to the amber glass to milk glass to the higher end Fenton glass, fairy lamps go anywhere as a popular choice for collectors. So when we get back into the popularity part of these guys aren't going anywhere. Fairy lamps are going to be around for a long time, and I think they're only going to go up in value as well. So speaking of value, let's get into the value part of this video. All right, so let's get into the value of fairy lamps. Now, you guys know I always start out with condition. Now, when it comes to glass, I've said it in all of our Collecting 101 videos, you want no chips, no cracks, no repairs. Now, due to that, that's going to give you the most amount of value in your fairy lamps. Now, if you're just a deep collector and you can deal with a chip or two, that's totally up to you. But to keep the full amount of value in your fairy lamps, you want to make sure all three of those things are a big no. You want no repairs, no chips, no cracks, all in beautiful condition. Now, if you want more information on fairy lamps, this is just like everything else in our Collecting 101 videos. It's going to take research. You got to research. I've done so much research on so many of these different things. You got knowledge, and knowledge is everything in this business. So when you guys are out and about looking for these fairy lamps, the more you can educate yourself and talking to fairy lamp collectors, fairy lamp Facebook group pages, whatever it may be, that's going to give you the most amount of knowledge to maximize your value of your fairy lamps. Now, common fairy lamps can go from anywhere from $10 to $20. And that makes it a great piece to start collecting. Between your clear glass, your amber glass, just your more common pieces of glass, $10 to $20 to start a collection of something is very reasonable. So I think fairy lamps in general are a very reasonable thing to start collecting based off of their value. Now, when you start getting into like the Fenton lamps and the Viking glass and all these many different styles of glass out there, that's when the price starts going up and up and up. Now, some Fenton lamps you can get from anywhere from $20 to $100 plus dollars. I mean, you can get into the hundreds of dollars when it comes to some of these Fenton lamps and Viking glass lamps, which we'll talk about when we get into our top 3 eBay sold listings. But, most of the time you can keep these fairy lamps in that $10 to $80 range, which I think makes it a great piece to start collecting. And as you guys have hopefully seen in the thumbnail of this video, some of these really amazing collections of fairy lamps can look really beautiful when displayed. So again, when it comes to value of these things, I think nothing but the value is only going to go up on these things. So I definitely a good thing to start collecting if you guys are looking to get into them. Now let's get into my favorite part of all of these Collecting 101 videos, which is the top 3 eBay sold listings of fairy lamps. So we're going to start off with number 3. And this is the Victorian Samuel Clarke Crick Light candelabra fairy lamp that sold for $750. An absolutely gorgeous piece that would be a boom to have in any collection. Now, number 2 on the list is an L.E. Smith Moon and Stars Amethyst Iridescent Fairy Lamp that sold for $850. Again, these are all beautiful pieces. Amethyst glass is one of the most rare glasses out there, and a lot of people are out there collecting it as well. So in turn, to have a fairy lamp like that, especially the iridescent with that glow off of it, absolutely gorgeous. Now, the number 1 was actually a surprise to me. And Viking glass is something I didn't touch on too a lot in this video, but Viking glass is super popular. And that's just not for fairy lamps, that's just with any glass in general. So the Viking glass Lime Vaseline Owl Fairy Lamp was number 1 on the list that sold for $995. Now I wanted to include both pictures of this so you guys can see it lit up under the black light as well as not lit up under the black light. But $995, $1,000 pretty much for a piece of fairy lamp glass is pretty awesome. I mean, it just shows you that the value is only going up on these things. Compared to when we first got into this business to now, fairy lamps have done nothing but gone up in value. So I look at it and I think from what I see buying it, it's not just old people. It's a lot of youngers that are buying it as well because you can really do a lot with them nowadays. Now, you're not using these short, stout candles anymore. A lot of people buy the battery-powered candles from Amazon or whatever it is, which I don't... I'm not a huge supporter of Amazon, but that's just me. I look at it more, you try to keep it original or don't put no light in as possible. That's fine too. But yeah, they use the battery-powered lamps or the battery-powered candles to put in there. And I think they look really good. I mean, I think, any of these times you can get a light behind glass, it always is going to pop it and make it look really nice. Now, fairy lamps are a great item to start collecting. As you can get into, they are very affordable price and they can, they display really well, which we've talked about many times in this video. I think, to me, when it comes to collecting, displaying is everything. And I always go back to mine. I was into sports cards, can't display sports cards very well. So I sold all my sports card collection. Now I collect video games. I can collect video games because I display them really well and they can show off really well. Now when it gets into glass, there's so many glass out there that displays well, like we talked about in our Fenton videos or depression glass videos. And fairy lamps are no different. They display so well with many different colors. I think it's something that's really just, a very cool thing to see. Now, as we've seen, they're coming quite sought after, which means that the value should only go up, like we've talked about many times. So when it comes to these guys, fairy lamps, the history of them, they have a very beautiful history, when it goes back to transitioning from candles to electricity with no electricity to the safety versions from the fire to, actually something that's of value that people were using not just for the lighting purposes, but something that was saving lives, really, if you think about it. And then you get into the popularity with so many different styles and designs for these fairy lamps. I mean, you're going to have a big gambit of items to go out there and start collecting. And then, of course, the value. The value is doing nothing but going up, as well as they're affordable to buy. So when you got those two things together, and those are, a double sword for, getting into something to collect. When it's going up in value, but still affordable right now to buy, that's definitely something you should get into. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our latest Collecting 101 video on fairy lamps. If you guys enjoyed everything, please feel free to like this video. Comment below your thoughts on fairy lamps. Do you guys have fairy lamps? Is it something you collect, or is it something maybe this video intrigued you to start collecting? Hopefully that's true. And then of course, if you guys get some time and you guys want to subscribe to the channel, we got Collecting 101 videos coming out all the time, trying to give you guys as much knowledge as possible in this business. Because like I've talked about in this video, knowledge is power when it comes to the antiquing business, if you're looking to collect or even to get into the reselling part of it as well. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you guys want to come out and discuss anything with me, of course, we have our shop at Nashville, Michigan, 66 Unique Antiques. Me and my wife, Amber, are there, as you can see in our other videos. Feel free to stop in and talk any of the antiquing piece or business in the world with us. We are always apt to do that as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. And if, it's been a while. So we always talk about, it's always about your memories over money. Bye-bye.